Hello and welcome to the Superstar Communicator Podcast for leaders and future leaders who want to influence, inspire and be heard in all business conversations. I'm Susan Heaton-Wright. Every 2 weeks I share practical insights, real stories and conversations with business leaders who understand the power of clear, purposeful communication to influence from the boardroom to the big presentation. Welcome to the Superstar Communicator Podcast. As you know, it's me on my own now. My fellow presenter, Nicholas Simon, has gone out into the sunset. That's what happens when you have your son as a podcaster with you. But there you go. I'm here now, and in fact, I'm looking out for a fellow podcast host. So if anybody is interested, please contact me. Like all occasions, I am delighted with the guest that we have today, and I'm absolutely certain that you will love this interview. Alexander Toffolides is Cyprus's first Olympic fencer. He competed at the 2024 Paris Olympics after a 21 journey in elite sport. Honestly, you don't look that old. He is the author of Fighting for Your Dream, Mastering Resilience and Performing When It Really Matters. And he now works as a motivational speaker and performance mindset coach, helping individuals and organizations perform at their best under pressure. Alexander, welcome.
Thank you, Susan, for having me.
Oh, I can't wait to ask you loads of questions here. But before we start, what is fencing?
Yes, so fencing, we call it physical chess. So we fence with a sword. Now, traditionally, in the 16th century, if you had a dispute with somebody, you would challenge them to a duel and it would be first blood, or if you go back earlier enough, it would be to the death. These days, there's no blood involved, but
Oh, that's good.
yes, put very simply, fencing, we fence with a sword and you've got to hit your opponent. But what's really great about it is, as a sport, it doesn't actually matter if you're tall or small or male or female, you can compete against anybody because you place your strengths. So that's a great aspect of fencing.
Oh, that's brilliant. And you said that you have actually been to the Olympics. Tell me a little bit more about your experience last year.
Yes, I mean, going to the Olympic Games was magical. I've been fencing for over 21 years, and it was my dream since a little kid. So it was really surreal, particularly how fantastically well run the Paris Olympic Games was. I'm sure everybody saw the opening ceremony, which was unique. That instead of going through a stadium, athletes were paraded down the River Seine on boats.
Were you on a
I
boat?
was on a boat as
Oh,
well.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. So it was really fantastic. The weather didn't agree with us that evening, so we all got absolutely soaked. Um, but what was two funny things were Team Cyprus was on a boat with Colombia, and for some reason, Colombia is very popular in Paris, so they were cheering Colombia, Colombia, and so we were pretending they were cheering for Cyprus as well. So it was fantastic at each corner having crowds cheering. Um, and also, it was the moment for one time in my life to be live in front of 2 billion people on TV. So despite it, they'd given us ponchos for the rain, but I decided to have my moment on TV without the poncho. So I got completely soaked, but yes, it was a fantastic memory.
Oh, how brilliant. And, to get to the Olympics is absolutely extraordinary. You talk about being an elite sportsman. Can you explain that for someone like me who doesn't necessarily appreciate that?
Well, yeah, and I think first of all, no one starts as a, elite athlete or professional athlete. It all starts at the beginning, doing something you really enjoy and love. And I think that was a sport that, my mum signed me up for a class when I was younger, and I really enjoyed it. And I think that's a really important thing, whether you take sport to the highest level, if you're just doing it recreationally, really enjoy it. You don't want exercise or sport to be a chore. So I
Yeah.
think particularly in this world, I've got to tick off 20 minutes exercise. Do something you enjoy. Makes a big difference. And I was very lucky to find a sport that I really enjoy. I like the physical aspect of it, but also I like the tactical aspect of working out my opponents. Now, obviously, as you get older, it's this enjoyment and of the sport has to fuel your hard work because a lot of hard work comes in. And I think the difference at an elite level is it's not just, picking up a racket or picking up your golf clubs and playing the game for that amount of time. There's a lot of work which goes behind the scenes to allow you to perform in that moment. So it's kind of, I talk a lot of a kind of effort, right? A lot of time, what does 100% effort mean? A lot of the time, people think if you give a lot of sweat and hard work, that's enough. But actually, I talk about 100% holistic effort. So,
Yes.
for example, are you doing any mental preparation, your physical preparation, sleeping well, diet? There are so many things that
Yes.
contribute to that performance on the present. So I think that's where the elite level athletes they take a holistic approach to it, not just the actual action of doing the sport.
It's interesting you say that because obviously I come from an arts performance background and it's exactly the same. I was an opera singer and I always regarded myself as an athlete first and foremost because I was using my body to perform.
Mm.
And so diet and sleep and being physically and mentally fit were parts of my preparation and lifestyle.
Yeah. No, and I think that's really important. And sometimes, people when you're trying to be successful in a task or a sport or whatever you're doing, they think, oh, there's so many complex things I've got to do. But ultimately, yes, doing the simple things right, like as you say, eating, sleeping are very important. And I think one of the great analogies I always remember throughout my, athletic career was I imagine my sporting journey as a rowing boat. And I always said, whatever I'm doing in my life, does that make that boat go forward? And I think so. I think that's to really reach the best at what you're doing, you have to look, okay, let's say if that's your aim, that's your target, will that extra beer help you go forward or not, or staying out a couple of hours later with your friends and not getting your correct hours of sleep. These kind of decisions, they add up. So I always had that in my head. Is this action helping me, the rowing boat, go forward closer to my Olympic dream?
Did you find this is just between you and me? Nobody else listening here.
Okay.
Did you find after the Olympics that you thought, hey, I'm going to get a beef burger. I'm going to party all night.
Yes. Yeah, yes, yes, absolutely. I think that was one of the things I said to myself. I love chocolate,
Oh, so do I.
and but I'm more of a milk chocolate, not dark chocolate. Sorry, in case any dark chocolate lovers out there. But um, I actually said to myself in the kind of 3 months for Olympics not to have any chocolate. So rest assured, I had a lot of chocolate after I finished the Olympic Games. I deserved it then, I thought.
Yeah, and isn't that a good message that before preparation and when you are going to be performing at elite level, then afterwards you can celebrate by having a choc fest.
Look, I think that's really important as well. Yes, you need to be disciplined to achieve your goals, but also need to reward yourself and be kind to yourself as well. Because, maybe we'll touch on it later, but a lot of these conversations, happen in your head and with yourself, right? So you need to be kind to yourself as well and pat yourself on the back when you've done well as well.
Oh, that's a really good message.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about being an elite sports person. I know that for, say, the UK team, in fencing or any other sports team, there is an elite program. And I know that you didn't go down that route. What made your journey to the Olympics unique?
Yeah, so I think, look, I tried to qualify for 4 Olympic Games and I qualified in the fourth one. And I'm half British, half Cypriot. So my mother's British and my father was from Cyprus. So for the first half of my career, I represented Britain. I was a British national champion. I was a European Games champion, the British team,
Wow.
and I failed to qualify for the London Olympics. I was seventh and top four qualified for the British team.
Oh, that's bad
For the
luck.
Rio Olympic Games, I was ranked fifth and four qualified, so I missed out on the game
Oh,
quite close. And up until that point, around the age of 22, I was part of the British team. Now, at that stage, they had a really good program, and we had physiotherapists, we had psychologists, we had strength and conditioning coaches, really a lot of people to aid us on the path. Now, actually, after the Rio Olympic Games, I switched from Britain to fence for Cyprus. Now, as it happened, also the British fencing lost their funding as well, so
oh, right.
it was a
Okay.
big shame for them. But
Yes.
basically, in 2015, my father, his parents, my grandfather and grandmother, all passed away, and my father quite unexpectedly, and they were from Cyprus. So I decided to switch to fence for Cyprus to, honor my father and his family as well. So I feel pride for both sides. Now, it was really a tale of two halves because fencing for Cyprus the last 8 years, um, I had to take on a lot more responsibility for myself. So no longer did I have all of these performance staff helping me. I had to be my own performance director, my own psychologist, my own coach, planning everything. Um, which felt quite tough at times. But looking back on it now, it really made me learn about responsibility and
Yes.
accountability,
Yes.
and to really understand that me personally and all of us in our lives, the person who is most responsible for our actions in our lives is ourselves, and it's
Yes.
about, it was a great experience this last 8 years of learning more about who I am, and being responsible for those decisions. I think that was really helpful.
Now, everybody listening, this is one of the reasons why I wanted Alexander to come on here, because you managed to reach an elite athlete point of, so you went to the Olympics, and for those last 8 years, you did it on your own. For most of us in our lives, when we are doing careers or when we're progressing with our career or we're wanting to be an entrepreneur, we have to rely on ourselves a lot more. We don't have that team of physios and psychologists and um, around us to push us forward. It's on us. What are your comments about that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Susan. And I would say, I think one of the most important drivers in this situation is to have a strong why and to understand
Yes,
yourself. Because to understand what are your life values, what do you believe in, and what drives you. Because this, when you have this and you're confident in this, in the good moments it will support you, and also in the more negative moments it can give you strength, a source of strength. I think that's really important, the why. And look, it's not set in stage forever, your values and what you think, that they change over time. I mean, how my life values and what motivated me at 18 and very different at 32. They could, of course, they adapt and they change. That, of course, that's different. Um, so I think that's the first thing which I say is very important. Um, yeah, and then I think, as I mentioned before, I think the holistic effort thing is really important as well, because you've got to look at the whole of it, and if you've got a task, I think really breaking it down and taking a more holistic approach gives you more chance to achieve it. And in addition to that, I would say that not to be upset if sometimes you don't achieve your goals, right? Because I think this is a big thing and I think what's really interesting, at each Olympics I failed to qualify for, I learned a new development skill. And I think
wow.
so. How I would define it, when I missed out by one place after Rio, I think. I think I really understood this one point, which was that you can't control the outcome, you can only control the process. Because
Yes,
when my father died in 2015, there was still 9 months left to qualify. And I said to myself, I want to do it for him, and I gave it 100% in all aspects, but I still failed. And I was so angry and upset with myself. I was like, I couldn't even do it for my father because
Yes.
4 years before there was Olympic fencer from Egypt, and his father had died 6 months before the London Olympics, and 6 months later he went on to get the silver medal. And I remember in the interview he'd said, I did this for my father. My father inspired me to get this medal. So I thought, okay, I want to do the same thing. And when I didn't, it made me feel even more doubly upset. So what
Of
I would say, so
course.
what I would say to listeners is that two things is first of all, you can only control the process, not the outcome. So if you give everything 100%, that's all you can ask. And
Yes.
second thing is progress is not linear, right? So you can put the effort in and you expect, okay, if I put on this hard work, 3 months later, that work, the results will come. And it doesn't work like that. And if you think like that, that also double down the negativity. So that's what I would say. Uh, Outcome, process over outcome, and success isn't always linear with effort.
Oh, that's brilliant. Do you think, therefore, that we need to have the mindset that there are some things we can't control? There are some outcomes that we can't control, whether it is that on the day someone was just better than you, or that you got an injury on the day, or something like that that prevented you from being successful in that situation.
Yeah, 100%. And in sports psych speak, they call it controlling the controllables. And I think I think you split it into two categories, which you say, what things can I control, i.e. yourself? You can control yourself, you can control, uh, you know, doing exercise each day, waking up in the morning, making your own bed. My mother's orders to me when I was younger. And, there are certain things you can control, and those things you should do because also they give you confidence. The things you can control, it gives you more confidence. You can tick off that task and it works, right? The second thing is there are things that are out of your control and you got to learn how to manage them. Somebody, you may turn up for work and you have split task and somebody talks to you in a very negative way. You can't control what's going to come out that person's mouth, but what you can control is how you react and you emotionally react to that situation. So that's a lot of the preparation that I did when I was fencing because I would control the controls. So how could I make sure that physically, mentally, and technically I was ready to compete? But also I did something called scenario planning, where I would plan for certain situations what my reaction would be, because particularly in a sport like fencing, where it happens so quickly, you are not able to stop, analyze this kind of thing. So your brain has to quickly recognize the situation and understand what your pre-planned response to that was. So yeah.
Very interesting. And so I love watching athletics, and in the summer there were the World Championships, and time and time again, British athletes were saying, "Oh, well, it was too hot," and oh, all of these excuses. I think it was in Tokyo again. I thought, well, surely you've worked out, or your whole team around you, because you've got a whole team, that you need to prepare for these particular climatic situations. And yet there was an excuse. What would you say to that without being
Look,
diplomatic?
I think, look, two things I'd say is yes, of course you can prepare for that. So they could have done warm-up weather training. There are different ways to
Mm,
prepare for this. I think I say two things that first of all, life is a constant process of learning, right? So I
yeah,
think what I find always really funny is that when somebody will offer someone advice on something, maybe something's happened to you, happened to me, you say, I'd advise you to do it this way. But people only also learn by making the mistakes of the actions themselves. So, I mean, now I guarantee those athletes will know they need to do some more warm weather training. Um, then I would also say, um, it's completely normal to have those kind of thoughts, right? Like it's because human beings, we have egos. It's very easy to blame others or blame situations for something. That's normal, right? But what I would say, so it's very easy when we fail at something to look, I don't know if you're an athlete or a student or this, blame your boss or blame your family or blame circumstance. Ironically, the reality is sometimes life is unfair. You get dealt a set of cards and you're responsible. You're the one you're responsible for your life. So that's why I would say is actually it's you've got to take responsibility for your
Yeah.
actions and for your life.
And if you've done everything you can,
Yeah.
including hot weather training and things like that, then you can hold your head up high, even if you're disappointed. I think it's a tough gig for athletes and sports people being interviewed immediately after a disappointment.
100%. I'd say yeah, just on the last point you made, 100%, because look, it's natural to be disappointed and upset when you've lost, and you need time just to compute that and just
Yes.
to put some logic to it. In terms of, I completely agree with what you said. If you've given that's why I talk about a lot holistic effort. If you've given 100% holistic effort, you can look yourself in the mirror and say, that's all I can ask. And I had a very interesting moment, and that's the second development skill I learned after I failed to qualify for the Tokyo Olympics. So for the Tokyo Olympics, so how it works in fencing, either you qualify as a team if you're a big team like Italy or GB or USA. But if you're from a smaller country, you still have to qualify through Europe. But what happens is they send one fencer per country to a qualification event. So it's about 35 fencers, and only the winner, one spot will go. So it's
Oh
very
my
big
goodness.
odds. And
Gosh.
and actually in Tokyo, I lost in the final of that competition again. So again,
Oh,
I was one place away from qualifying. So Rio, I missed out by one place, and then Tokyo again. But something really interesting happened, which would then help me qualify for Paris 4 years later. Was I was on a training camp um, in Italy about 2 weeks before I was due to compete in this competition, and every day, whether I'm doing fencing or in my general life, I do something called a mental warm up, which is basically I focus on how do it different exercises to be able to focus on the present, to turn negative thoughts into positive thoughts. It's a thing I do each day. Same way people do physical warm up and stuff like this. I was walking down. It was a 10-minute walk to the training, and I was doing my mental warm up, and I just smiled internally. I smiled, and I was like, wow. And I just realized myself, I had given over this last 3 years, 4 years, everything. I prepared. I was physically, I was ready, mentally, I was ready, technically, I was ready. And whatever the result was going to happen 2 weeks later, I was satisfied, and I had to be satisfied with that. And it was a great learning that somebody like me who's so competitive, and I do admit when I was younger, really defined my success. If I was successful, I had won, and if I was a failure, I'd lost. It was a really transformative moment for me because I realized no, you can't control the outcome. 100% process. If you've given that effort, you can be happy at that. And that was a really great learning for me.
brilliant. Now, I've got you gave me three questions to ask. How do you train your internal communication to stay composed under Olympic level pressure?
Yeah, so I kind of just touched on it a
Yes,
bit then. Yes, yes, which is what I would. So one of the big things that I worked on was my mental skills. That's definitely been my
yes,
advantage over the last 4 years. And I think when someone's doing training or doing something in a non-pressure environment, it's kind of maybe might be a bit easier to execute, right? And of course, when pressure mounts up, you could be outcome focused, different things come in your way and you're not able to execute it. So I thought mental skills are really important. And I have been doing for many years now kind of a mental warm up. And the point of this is that let's say if we go and play tennis, we go and play golf, how many people listen to this podcast, do you physically warm up before? Maybe you just turn up, play, but you physically warm up before. But how many of you actually warm up your brains, which are the ones going to execute your actions, right? So um, I find that three key elements for me that I need to be warmed up mentally to perform under pressure is the ability to focus on the present, right? That's really
Yes.
important because, and I do that through box breathing. So, which is I breathe my breath, I'm focusing on my breath. I do probably do 10 minutes a day. And my mind may wander, what's for dinner, what my tasks are. And the aim of the exercise is really just to focus back on that breath and to be able to focus on the present. Because the reality is, all of us in life have daydreamed before our mind wanders. And the key is that's normal, but then how to focus back on your task. You know, if your mind is thinking of other things, you're not going to execute your task efficiently. Second thing is, all of us have negative thoughts, doubts, these kind of, it's completely normal. And again, sometimes there is a kind of emotional side of it. You may be not thinking logically. So what I always do, I wake up in the morning, any negative thoughts that I have, I kind of rationalize and put logic to them. So I kind of, and you can do that by verbalizing that. That's a very strong tool, or you can do that by writing it down. There are many different
Yes.
ways you can do that. And then finally is, as I said before, a bit of scenario planning. So you can kind of, now that can be done through visualization. So you can
Yes.
visualize it, or for people who are less visually focused, it can just be kind of talking about it, almost rehearsing what different tasks you are doing, whether that's sport, whether that's business or general life.
Oh, brilliant.
Sorry for the long answer.
No, no, that's absolutely
Yeah.
fine. Now, before we go, because I'm aware that you're a very, very busy person, what are your three top tips to share with the audience?
So I think the first thing, sorry for repeating myself, but in
No,
conclusion,
no, no, no. It's good. It's good
yeah, I
to
would
hear.
just to hone in on that, I'd say, look, the most important thing is you are the captain of your own ship, right? You need to take responsibility. Life will be unfair sometimes, it'll be good, it'll be bad, but you are the one who knows yourself the best. And yes, it's important to seek advice from people who are experts in things, but your responsibility for the actions that you take. And I think the sooner that you can realize that, it will really unlock a lot of things for you. Second thing I would say, definitely, as I've said before, process over outcome. You can
Yes.
control the process, you cannot control the outcome. Thirdly, I would say holistic effort, right? 100% effort doesn't mean just sweat, it means all the preparation behind. So if you have a task, make sure you look behind, prep all those things uh, to that task. I'll add two more.
Oh,
Fourth,
go on.
fourth is that, as I told you, yes, you need to take responsibility, but it takes a village. Surround yourself with people who build you up, who give you positivity, and are there for you that you can seek counsel on. Very important. Can be family, can be friends. It's up to you to determine the composition of that. And finally, enjoy the journey. I think that's don't forget to enjoy it because I trained to qualify for Olympic Games for 21 years and my Olympic Games journey experience was 7 days in the Olympics. So if I hadn't enjoyed the 21-year journey, uh, maybe not a good return for 7 days.
Yeah, that's true. So
Yes, yes.
what have you got happening in the future? Are you going to try for the Olympics again in the United
Yes, and so it's
States?
very exciting times now. So we have the Commonwealth, which is coming up next year.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we have European Games in 2027, and then the Olympics in LA in 2028. So I'm still in training, and I hope to qualify. For me, mental skills already really was always really important. So that's why I also want to kind of spread my message of that over the next 4 years as well.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure that there are going to be people that will want to contact you, Alex. So, how could they contact you? Because I know that you've got your book,
Yes.
Fighting for Your Dream, Mastering Resilience and Performing When It Really Matters.
Yes.
Um, I'm sure that people would like to purchase that. Where could they purchase
Yeah,
it?
so you can purchase that on Amazon. It's available on Amazon, so directly from Amazon, Find for Your Dream. Um, please follow me on Instagram, Alex Toffolides, and also my LinkedIn, Alexander Toffolides. I'm very lucky that my name is a bit unique. There's only one of me, so if you type in Toffolides, yeah, hopefully the spelling, you can find it. You'll be able to find me. And look, I really hope in the future to be doing, there'll be a lot of stuff on media, some content you can follow to get more tips and stuff. And I hope to do some workshops as well in the future.
Oh, brilliant. Do you have a website as well?
Yes, my website is alextoffolides.com.
Oh, it's Alex. Yes.
Yeah,
I've got that all written down so that that
perfect.
will be in the notes for
Yeah,
this episode.
that's
Is there
perfect.
anything else you want to add?
No, that's fine. Thank you very much, Susan, for having me. It's been very enjoyable.
Thank you. It's been an absolute delight. I've learnt so much. And listeners, do reach out to Alex because he's got some great things to offer. So until next time, this is Susan Heaton-Wright from Superstar Communicator Podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the Superstar Communicator Podcast. If you found this episode useful, follow or subscribe so you can join me every 2 weeks for more insights and conversations with business leaders who know that how you communicate shapes the impact you make. Let's keep in touch at superstarcommunicator.com. At Superstar Communicator, we help leaders and teams influence with clarity, confidence, and purpose through training, masterclasses, and practical resources that make communication work in the real world. We offer masterclasses, keynote speeches, facilitate workshops, virtual workshops, programs, and one-to-one coaching. You can be part of it by exploring what we offer or by contacting me directly. You'll find all of the details in the show notes. And if this episode resonated, please share it with someone who's stepping into leadership or who wants to influence more effectively. Until next time, communicate with purpose and make your impact count.